There is so much to say about this episode of Better Call Saul. I honestly do not know where to begin. It was an extremely significant episode concerning Jimmy's journey to becoming Saul Goodman. It seems that we have probably seen Jimmy's last step into fully becoming Saul. There were also a ton of throwbacks in this episode. I'm not really sure what to call them, but they were references to things that we've seen in early episodes. Not only references, but actions duplicated. Things we've seen the characters do in early episodes were repeated throughout this episode. And lastly, it seems that they are giving us clues as to what's going to happen in future episodes through the themes of this season. I'm G, and this is the G-Spot. I loved the opening. I thought it was really great. It had like this kind of 50s feel to it. The suburban couple riding their bikes, using their hand signals in unison. It was really a cool opening. We were able to see the theme in this opening. We could see it when they were talking about the color red that someone had painted their house. And also when we see this couple walk into their house and there's just these three men there, it was particularly strange because at first the couple and the men do not interact at all. I even started like questioning, do they know that each other is there? Or like, does this couple not even see these men or something? It was a great opening. It was a little strange, but it was really good. Through the men and the color of the red house, we see a theme of being out of place. Those men were out of place in that house. That color red is out of place in that neighborhood. And we do see this theme of out of place throughout the rest of the episode. What we do see with Gus, we go inside Gus's house. And this is a part of Gus we normally do not get to see. We don't really see much with Gus and his personal life. Everything with Gus is about business and revenge, basically. What we could see was that everything in Gus's house was in place. He's a very organized and neat man, and he had everything in place. We even see that every one of his ties has a place where the tie goes. So the thing that was out of place in Gus's house was us. Gus does his thing, he heads over, and that's when we see this whole closed circuit TV thing is all set up for watching his house to protect him from Lalo. And Mike's there, they have their discussion. Gus says how the man Mike put in his kitchen is not up to Los Pollos standards. Mike's guy that's working for Gus is out of place in the Los Pollos kitchen. The best part about this scene to me is when Mike says to Gus, when Gus insists that Lalo is still alive, and Mike says, then where is Lalo? Because that is the question on my mind. Where is Lalo? We have not seen him in 3 episodes. The last time we saw Lalo was at the end of episode 1 when he decided instead of going up north, he was going to get proof that it was Gus that put the hit out on him, and then he would go up north. We see Lalo take a truck and he drives down south. Instead of going up north, that's the end of episode 1. We have not seen hide or hair of Lalo since. I thought that maybe it was him who was following Kim and Jimmy at the end of episode 2, but we found out in this episode that that wasn't him. That was one of Mike's men. So we could also say that right now Lalo is out of place. Gus is certainly expecting him to be up north where he is. He's done all this stuff to watch and protect himself because he feels that Lalo is going to make a move, but Lalo is nowhere to be found. I would have sworn up and down, if you asked me before this 4th episode, that we will definitely see Lalo in this 4th episode. I couldn't believe we didn't see him. And I would swear up and down that we will definitely see him in the 5th episode, but I honestly don't know if we're going to see him or not. Where Lalo is remains a mystery. So the rest of the episode was focused on Jimmy and Kim. They spent a whole lot of time on the stunt they pulled on Howard. It was really a blast to watch. And we get our first throwback when we see Jimmy dressed as Howard. If we go all the way back to the first season, Jimmy dresses up as Howard for his billboard. So this is a throwback. We see Jimmy dressed up as Howard again. My favorite part about Wendy is she's trying to get a root beer when Jimmy picks her up. And if you watch her, when Kim drops her off, she goes straight to the soda machine. Like, oh my God. Has she really been thinking about a root beer this whole time? I mean, there is no hesitation. She like gets out of the car and walks to the root beer machine. Like this whole thing with Jimmy and Kim never happened with her. She's just like right back at that second where she wanted to get her root beer. And that was really great. Maybe in a way, this is telling us that Jimmy and Kim took her out of her place because her place was getting a root beer apparently. I don't know, but I got a really big kick out of that part. But when Jimmy returns, goes to return Howard's car, he sees that the cone that he left was moved out of its place. And Jimmy has a strong reaction to the cone being moved. He expresses this by asking, what type of asshole moves a cone? Something we've seen this season before is this idea that Jimmy and Kim are kind of fooling themselves about who they are and what they're doing, what their actions mean. You know, they are trying to destroy a man, at the very least, a man's reputation. They're trying to destroy Howard's reputation. But they've been walking around all season, as I pointed out in the 3rd episode, like, you know, there's this happy romantic couple, these 2 lawyers who are getting things done and trying to make it so they can help out the little people in the world, which we do see Kim doing, but complete blind eye to what they're actually doing to Howard. And I feel like this is really accented when Jimmy asks what type of asshole moves a cone. He repeats this question when he is with Kim later on that night and they're talking about all the events that just occurred that day. And Kim's answer is a narcissist. And again, it's just really funny that to them, a narcissist is someone who moves a cone. What would they consider what they're doing to Howard? What type of person would they say does that to somebody? It was all very interesting. Also, at this point when Jimmy and Kim are in the bedroom, and Jimmy's talking about how he took the parking sign and moved it out of its place. And he was telling Kim about how he moved it out of its place. He used the word wrestle. Jimmy has used the word wrestled before. I think it's a funny word. And Kim's laughing as Jimmy tells this story. This is a throwback to, I believe, it's Kushada, when they run the scam. I guess it would be on Suzanne and the court to get Huel off. Later that night, after it all worked out, Jimmy and Kim are in the bed, and Jimmy is doing the preacher voice that he used when he talked to Suzanne to say what a great guy Huel was, and Kim's laughing over the preacher voice. So again, another throwback. So a lot of the episode is dedicated to this stunt. The last thing I do want to say about the stunt is when they are in the bedroom talking about everything that happened. Kim says that she got carried away waiting for Jimmy, selling this idea to Cliff, and that he bought it. And it's shocking that that also worked out for them. I point this out because I don't think that Kim just got carried away. I think Kim sat down to that meeting with Clifford Main with full intention of getting him to say yes. I don't think that Kim just got carried away with things either. If we watch the scene happen, we know Jimmy is in an extreme hurry. He expresses that more than once to Wendy, and Kim knows that Jimmy only has the amount of time that Howard is in his meeting. You know, if Jimmy's 30 seconds late, this whole thing is going to be blown. So Jimmy arrives. He sends the text to Kim, "I'm ready." And Jimmy's pressured for time, but Kim doesn't respond right away. We don't see Kim text Jimmy to proceed until after Cliff Main has bought into this thing Kim is selling him. And then once Cliff says, "I'm in," that's when Kim sends the text. I think Kim had complete intentions of getting a yes out of Cliff at that meeting. I think she had complete intentions of being sure that everything with Jimmy succeeded and went through. I think this plan against Howard is extremely important to Kim. But what she didn't let Jimmy know is she also was going to get this yes. And when she tells him about the yes, she acts like it just happened, without her really intending it to. This actually is another throwback. If we go back to the 4th season, we see Kim go meet Richard Schweikart from Schweikart and Coakley, and that's when she proposes that she starts their banking division. But later that day, Kim tells Jimmy she didn't propose it. She says that Richard came to her with the idea. So I definitely see this meeting with Clifford Main being just like that meeting with Richard, where it's all Kim, it's all her idea. She's the one who proposes everything and sells it. And then she just tells Jimmy that it was Richard's idea. And this thing with Cliff, Kim had all sorts of intention of making sure she got a yes out of Clifford Main. But when she says it to Jimmy, it's just like, "Oh, I just got carried away with things." And would you believe it? He actually said yes. It is after this conversation the next day when we see Jimmy at the courthouse. I'm not sure if we want to call you can't really necessarily call this a throwback, but it kind of is, because this scene definitely shows us a change in how people at the courthouse interact with Jimmy. There are people who have interacted with him in the past, and what we see in this episode is a total change in their interactions with Jimmy. We see it's a very particular name, but she sits behind the glass at that window and she schedules the court cases. Jimmy brings her stuffed animals and she wants nothing to do with him. I mean, she's not always the friendliest person to Jimmy, but Jimmy does manage to work her. He has managed to work her in the past. He knows to bring her those little stuffed animals and she loves him, loves them. But he couldn't get anywhere with her. All she does is hand him paperwork to fill out and then puts the close sign up. So, I mean, it was made really clear that she feels differently about Jimmy than she used to. We then see a quick run-in with Hannah Banana, who Jimmy has run into before. He gives a quick hi like he did in the past. In the past, Hannah Banana gives him a very friendly hello, but this time, she can't walk away from him fast enough. She wants nothing to do with him. Finally, Jimmy runs into Bill, and his run into Bill is a legit throwback. They're very particular about making sure that we connect Jimmy and Bill's meeting in this episode with a meeting they had in the past. When we see Bill in this episode, we're watching him get something out of a vending machine. It gets stuck, and the camera is inside the vending machine. We have seen this exact shot before, We've seen it in season 5, episode 1, Magic Man. Right before Jimmy runs into Bill in that episode, Bill is at the vending machine. The camera is inside the vending machine, and Bill's product gets stuck and he has to knock it out. In that episode, Magic Man, after Bill gets his snack, he's walking down the hall. He's ransacked by the film crew who start questioning him about some client getting unfair treatment. And then Jimmy comes up. The girl from the film crew, who we're never given her name, but she says to Jimmy, "Who are you?" And he says, "Saul Goodman." And then Bill looks at Jimmy and says, "You're who?" It was the first time Bill ever heard the name Saul Goodman, and he didn't know who Saul Goodman was. When Jimmy says, "I'm Saul Goodman," Bill's response is, "You're who?" He was confused. He didn't know who Saul Goodman was. So we cut to this 4th episode in the 6th season. Bill is once again at the vending machine. His thing is stuck. This time it's Jimmy who gets it out. And Bill is extremely cold to him. Jimmy chases him down. What's going on? Everybody's blowing me off. And this time, Bill does know who Saul Goodman is. He knows exactly who Saul Goodman is. Saul Goodman is a criminal lawyer. This is definitely what they were communicating to us in this scene. Bill's closing line is, when Jimmy says, "You can't prove anything," Bill's closing line is, "There's proof and there's knowing." Bill's saying, "I know who Saul Goodman is now. I know that he's a criminal lawyer." Whereas again, back in Magic Man, when Bill is introduced to Saul Goodman, he has no idea who he is. "You're who?" But now Bill knows who Saul Goodman is. Saul Goodman is a criminal lawyer. After that, we see Jimmy at lunch. He gets blown off by somebody, but another throwback, Jimmy is getting tons of phone calls. This is not a throwback to a particular episode, but it really reminds us of where Jimmy is coming from, because the first season, Jimmy was a struggling public defender. And one of the things that we watched happen multiple times is Jimmy would get back to his office and check his machine for messages, and he never had any messages. He was struggling trying to get clients. In many ways, this is his final success to those opening seasons, waiting to get those calls. Jimmy's finally getting the calls he's been trying so hard to get. Interestingly enough, when he does dress up as Howard in the first season, it's right after he pretends to be Howard, because it's after the billboard's done. He starts getting a lot of phone calls. And now here we are in the 6th season, and right after he dresses up with Howard, he starts to get a lot of phone calls. Not related, because this time he's getting the phone calls because of representing Lalo, but still, he dressed up as Howard twice, and both times after he dresses up with Howard, he gets a lot of phone calls. So Jimmy's getting all these phone calls. He shows up to the nail salon, another throwback. We haven't been in the nail salon in a while, and it's been many seasons since Jimmy, I think since season 2, we have not seen Jimmy practice law in the nail salon. He's been there for other reasons, like to meet I think his name is Mr. X. When him and Kim were trying to run a scam on Kevin from Mesa Verde, they met Mr. X in the nail salon. But this is the first time we've seen him practice law in the nail salon again. We get another specific throwback in this scene when Miss Nguyen says that the cucumber water is only for paying customers. That was almost a running gag in the first season. We certainly heard it several times. The difference is this time, Jimmy actually gives her money for it, whereas before he was never able to. So Jimmy shows up to the nail salon, and who's here to see Saul Goodman? And are you the guy who represented Lalo Salamanca? Jimmy says yes. So if we look at these two scenes, the scene of Jimmy in the courthouse being blown off by everybody, and then the scene of Jimmy in the nail salon being the complete opposite of being blown off by everybody wants his attention in the nail salon. What we see is Jimmy's final step into becoming Saul Goodman, criminal lawyer, because what he's now gotten that he didn't have before is the reputation of being a criminal lawyer, he's a criminal who is a criminal lawyer, and now he has that reputation, and he didn't have it before. Bill says to him, you scammed the court and you scammed the judge, and it was all to get cold-blooded murderer, something like that, set free. We've talked about this several times this season because it is a huge part of what's going on. What Jimmy did with Lalo is unacceptable by everybody's standards, including Jimmy. Jimmy has struggled even this season in dealing with that. We see him struggle with it up until after the meeting with him, Kim, and the Kettlemans, and he gets in the car and says wolves and sheep. It seems that really affected Jimmy. He was reminding himself the world is made up of wolves and sheep, and since that moment he hasn't seemed too bothered by the events of last season. But for the first 2 episodes of this season he was bothered by it, and now that everybody else is finding out, they're extremely disturbed by it, and they just don't want to be around a criminal lawyer. The criminals want to be around him. That's exactly what they need. But the people in the courthouse do not. So both in the legal system and in the criminal world, Jimmy has a reputation now of being a criminal lawyer. And I would say that is his final step to becoming the Saul Goodman we know from Breaking Bad. I don't think in this long journey that we've seen Jimmy go through, I don't think there's any more steps for him to take. I think there's some changes to happen, like what's going to happen to Kim, what's going to happen to Lalo, all this other stuff. But as far as Saul Goodman, the person we meet in Breaking Bad, Jimmy is pretty much there. He basically only has to go through whatever he's going to go through with Kim, and boom, he's going to be the Saul Goodman we know from Breaking Bad. I would definitely say that we can say Hit and Run, episode 4 of the 6th season, is where Jimmy takes his last step to becoming Saul Goodman. And that last step is him, because this is the most important part about it, Jimmy embracing this reputation of being a criminal lawyer. As far as Kim goes in this episode, it seems that Kim was actually starting to see more of the truth about who her and Jimmy are and what they're doing. Kim was out of place throughout the episode because Kim is using a restaurant, El Camino Dining Room, for her office. And that is not an office, it's a restaurant. But Kim is like legit using it for her office. We saw her there in the first episode of this season. We see her there throughout this episode, but also when she goes up to pay her bill and she's talking to her server says to her, "See you tomorrow, Kim?" And Kim's like, "You bet." Like, Kim's using this restaurant as her office. There's something, I really don't like this word, but it works. There's something very organic about it, even though it is out of place. And I only say that because Kim is helping people in need, and she seems to be feeding these people during the meetings. In the last meeting we see her in, I think it's the last, but one of the meetings we see her in this episode, the guy finishes his meal and Kim still has some, and she's like, "You want this?" And the guy really wants it. He's hungry. He's like, "Yeah, I do." And Kim just gives it to him. Okay, so for that sense, like meeting these people in the restaurant, like it does have some, it works, it kind of fits, but no, I think Kim is out of place in that restaurant. We see Kim accepting truth a few times when her and Jimmy are in the bedroom and talking about she questions whether she's being followed or not. Jimmy says only the wicked believe they're being followed when they're not. And Kim questions Jimmy, saying, "Are you saying we're wicked?" And she's a little shocked by this statement. And she's like open to the idea that Jimmy is saying that. Like she's, you know, she doesn't just completely blow it off. But we also see Kim really embrace the truth at the end of the episode when Jimmy is showing her his office. And Kim's response about the office is it's smelly, it's dirty, it's too small, but it's probably exactly what you need right now and might be a diamond in the rough. You know, she wasn't fooling herself at all about that office. And that is the first time this season that I've really seen Kim be more open to truth about exactly where her and Jimmy are and who they are. I love the toilet bowl we see in the office. One, that is something else that is out of place, but it's just it's great symbolism for Jimmy's office to just have a toilet bowl there, a dirty old toilet bowl. It did strike me, we saw the gold toilet in the mansion. I don't know if we should be connecting those two things or why, but that did strike me. Kim did not mention any of the Lalo stuff that Mike talked to her about when Mike approached her in the restaurant. Mike being in the restaurant was also something else that was out of place for two reasons. We see Mike in a particular restaurant, in a particular booth, with a particular server. Every time he's in a restaurant, he's in the same restaurant, in the same booth with the same server. So seeing Mike in a different restaurant was seeing him out of place. But even more so, seeing Mike talking to Kim was something that was very out of place. He does tell Kim, she says, "Why are you telling me this?" And she says, "Because you're sturdier than Jimmy," which was a little bit shocking to hear Mike to say, but then again, it's like, well, yeah. And Mike knows this better than anybody because in last season, when Lalo was the problem, Jimmy could not take it. He was freaky. He was pounding on Mike's door. Mike's like, you know, "What are you doing? I'm not going away." Jimmy couldn't handle it. So it does make sense that we see Mike go to Kim. Also in that scene, as Mike's walking out, we hear Kim say, "Wait, I do know you. You operate the toll booth at the courthouse." Again, being out of place. And Mike says, "Yes, I was." And when Kim turns around, her mind is blown when she turns around from that, because she connects that Mike's the guy in the desert, and now Mike is the guy who's getting people to protect her and Jimmy without them knowing it. Like, you know, who is this guy? And oh, he's the toll booth attendant? Like, what? Like, Kim's expression and her hands when she turns around from that are just really, really great. And they do show the appropriate amount of shock that it's like very realistic. And then when Kim does meet Jimmy at the office, she does not bring any of this up to him, even though it's still on her mind. In the very end, when they're walking away, Kim is looking behind her because she's nervous. She wants to know if Lalo has found them. It was a significant episode, specifically with Jimmy and his journey to becoming Saul. A significant episode with the theme of being out of place. I think I've covered most of the stuff that was out of place. Why do I think that this out of place could be a clue? If we look at the first three episodes, the themes are step-by-step, evidence, and hidden. Now, if we look at this shot from the second episode, this is Nacho's girlfriend answering the door when Mike knocks, and we see a domino underneath her foot. It has a 6 and a 3 on it. What we come to find out in the third episode is season 6, episode 3, Nacho dies. And that domino, they very clearly showed us that domino in the second episode. They were letting us know something significant is going to happen in the third episode. And we could have even realized this significant event was definitely related to Nacho because it was his girlfriend, his house, his domino. So it was all connected to Nacho. But what's really interesting is when you look at the themes for the first 3 episodes. The theme for the first episode was step by step. The theme for the second episode was evidence. And the theme of the third episode was hidden. And we see that this evidence is hidden underneath a step. Step by step, evidence hidden. And then we see that there is evidence hidden under a step. The thing is I've been doing themes for Better Call Saul for many seasons, and I always take the themes of each episode, line them up, and look to see, did they give us a message through the themes? They've never come close to giving us any type of message through the themes, at least as far as I could tell. There's never any, the themes just don't go together in any type of way. And now here, wow, hidden evidence under a step, and the themes are step by step, evidence and hidden. I cannot ignore this. I'm not saying it's definite, but wow, I have never ever seen this before. Getting to this episode, the theme was being out of place. And specifically what we saw a lot in this episode, when I do themes, usually what I think the theme is after the first time I watch it, it's not what the actual theme is. And it takes me a couple times of watching to really narrow down on the theme. The first time I watched Hit and Run, I labeled the theme as people being where they don't belong. I knew it wasn't right because there's too many words. If you ever look for themes, I can tell you that themes should be 1 to 2 words, maybe 3, sometimes 4, but even 4 is stretching it. You get into 5 words, it's not a theme. You need to wordsmith to find your theme. But anyway, so after the first time I watched it, I thought, okay, it seems like there was a lot of people that were places they didn't belong. In the opening, the men inside that couple's house, like they did not belong there. Kim using a restaurant for an office, like she does not belong there. Mike being in the restaurant and talking to Kim, he does not belong there. There were a lot of people. Jimmy being in Howard's car, he does not belong there. There were a lot of people in places where they didn't belong. My prediction from the theme of being out of place is that in the 6th episode, we will see the return of Walt and Jesse. Because seeing Walt and Jesse in the series Better Call Saul they would be out of place. They don't belong in the Better Call Saul series. They belong in Breaking Bad. So when we see them there, they will be out of place, like Mike was out of place when he was talking to Kim. Now I say the 6th episode because of the way the previous themes worked to give us a clue. So we got our first hint in this 4th episode. I think we'll get another hint in the 5th and 6th episode, but we will also see Walt and Jesse return in the 6th episode of the 6th season. That is my prediction that I would not take to the bank because I really don't know if I'm right. But like I said, this is weird that the themes lined up. So I say Walt and Jesse return 6th episode of the 6th season. There really was so much that happened in this episode. We did get a close-up of Kim's heel, and Kim's black heels and the ice cream cone from the 5th season. I could go on and on about that for about 20 more minutes because I think they're really significant, and I think that these are also laying a trail for where Jimmy's been and where he's going, and I think it partly tells us what's going to happen with Jimmy and Kim in the end. I really felt the 4th episode of the 6th season was incredibly significant and at the same time incredibly fun. It was a really great episode. It may end up being like one of my favorite episodes of this series. It was just a lot of fun. The actor who plays Kim, she directed last night's episode. It is the first Better Call Saul episode she's directed, and it was awesome. I think she's a great director. I hope we see more from her in the director's chair. Make sure you look out for future videos on the rest of the episodes of the 6th season. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.